which I had a long involvement with, there was always a belief that if they got Myanmar into ASEAN, they could influence them more positively. I regret to say that totally failed as well, despite Myanmar coming in. It gave, when Myanmar did come into the ASEAN group, it gave those of us who were involved with the ASEAN post-ministerial conferences the ability to talk with the Myanmar people, or argue with the Myanmar people, but many hours of arguing I put in and others put in, and well, it's achieved nothing.
Being a very diverse group, as you've said, are cultural differences a major obstacle to achieving the goals you're actually trying to? And if so, how can you overcome them?
Yeah. Less now. Yes, there had been times when the cultural differences did impede discussion or did impede resolutions, but I see a lot less of that now. I think in the same way that the old sort of Soviet bloc disappeared, there's been the economic debate around the world is pretty similar now. It is sort of private sector encouragement. It's not on ideological lines anymore, and so no matter what cultural differences there are, leaders are principally looking for growth, economic opportunities, and investment, and they try and work those in. But as I said, given our diversity, it's not difficult to actually challenge these issues, because there's always going to be a group that can indicate their views on a particular issue, and it becomes part of the mix. So I think within the Commonwealth, we all have a reasonable understanding of the other's viewpoint.
Just thinking about that question, I'm actually with the United Nations at the UNA, and also at the G8 as an observer, and also to Brussels, which is in Brazil, South Africa. I think a lot of global leaders, now that we're in a private group, are talking about cultural or human capital and social capital being reflected in the economic system. You've got David Hughes saying, looking down on you behind you, what's the enlightenment here? And Smith's exactly clarification on that. Do you think we need a new zeitgeist floating around about the economic system as well? China's coming up with the Beijing consensus. I think, I hope I'm not going a bit too high up here, but I think it's something that this generation needs to know about. When you get out of university, come against things that don't work with what you've been taught. I think we need to get that moving. We need to get it in, as you say, from bottom up and from top down. And it's happening. I'm sure this is happening in the Commonwealth as well. I know it's happening in UN circles. I know it's happening in G8s, etc. There is a possibility of getting enlightenment and re-enlightenment around the world from here, and possibly things coming from New Zealand or well-being rather than just economic angles. Will you just comment on that? The culture comes into it as well. So I think I'm not saying that it's important.
It's a fascinating area. People like you think about that probably more than I do. It's no, you're right. And things are moving so fast now that there is a danger we rest heavily on the foundations we were building yesterday. Yet everything is just moving. As I often say in this country, if you're a businessman, woman in this country, I mean the United Kingdom, and you have not been to Shanghai in the last 12 months, you are not aware of what's happening in this world. And it is just huge. And to judge what the impact will be is quite mind-blowing. But it's happening, it will continue to happen. The worst that could happen is Europe becomes very protectionist as a result. But to understand what's happening does require some new thinking. Quite candidly, China and India should be in the G8, right in the middle of the G8. Their purchasing power parity is climbing right up there with the G8 members. And the G8 is very, very transatlantic orientated. It's time it really made a shift. The other shift is in the UN itself. And I have heard so many debates, and I participated in debates about who should be on the Security Council. The Security Council is a I regret to say it's probably not going to change in my lifetime, and I think it'll only change when it does something really stupid and proves to be utterly unable to respond to something that is really relevant, that the world says, look, it has got to change tomorrow, and less posturing by the P5 who claim residency for life. But it's not just the Security Council or the G8, or the makeup of the Board of Governors on the bank and the fund. Again, there's a resistance to bring others into it. Sure, those who put money in the bank do have a level of moral authority about where it's spent. But you've got to see the world today, not what it was 20 years ago. So there probably is time for some whole new thinking. In the same way that Professor Amartya Sen gives us some new thinking on this whole issue of dysfunctional communities. It is all related. And you need those people with brains this size and who sit on the tops of mountains and think about these things, rather than us who sit in the swamps trying to avoid the alligators.
In the UK, at least, awareness of the Commonwealth is probably, I don't know, if you interview 100 people on the street, the Commonwealth Games would be an obvious one. I don't know if it's stretched, for a large proportion, much more than that. Is public awareness an issue, at least in the developed countries?
It probably is. I did worry about it for a while. The first couple of years I was in this job, I decided I was never going to convince the British media of anything related to the Commonwealth. The only thing the British media talks about in relation to the Commonwealth is Zimbabwe, which is no longer a Commonwealth member, but they persist. Even though I reminded them that, 5 members of the Commonwealth are former German colonies, we've got 6 members who are also members of Francophonie. We are a real mixture historically and everything else. We are better known in the developing countries where we are actively doing things for the people and our flag is on the horizon. In the developed countries, it's not a difficult one. Your political leaders are very much aware. And I've always said, you've got to use the Commonwealth. And for the United Kingdom, there's 52 votes. You want to initiate something in the World Bank or the UN, there's 52 votes. If you play it right, you can bring with you to support you. And intelligent Commonwealth Prime Ministers will use the Commonwealth to advance an international interest. The Canadians did it with the anti-landmine issue. Lloyd Axworthy actively used the Commonwealth countries to support that. So, for big countries, use the Commonwealth to advance some of your interests. For little countries, use the Commonwealth to magnify your interest and your concerns. Join together with others and push those ahead. I could spend half of my budget telling the British public all about us, but I'd rather spend it on people who actually need the products rather than. So I'm depending on good people like you to go and write a good essay later on about it.
What's the attitude of the US to the Commonwealth? Do they see it as something that they want to work with, or something that's a bit of a threat, or something that's not really an issue because it's so small in comparison to other things?
Well, I decided when I came into the job that I should engage with the United States. Now, I'd been a foreign minister, so I'd worked with Secretary Baker and Secretary Christopher and Secretary Albright, and so I decided I would continue. The result of that is we now have annual discussions in the State Department, in the White House, in the National Security Council, on Capitol Hill. It sounds huge, but look, it's 2 days' work. And you just want to make sure that the key players